Hello, everyone. This is a test on how good you know your body language. Let's get into it. So, before we start, grab a piece of paper or something because you're going to mark down every major gesture. Every gesture you mark down is a point. Add them up at the end and you'll see how good you are at it. Make sure to pause and check every picture with detail. Then, after you've marked them, continue on. Got it? 1. What are the three main signals in this illustration? This is a good example of an openness cluster. The palms are fully exposed in the submissive position, and the fingers are spread to give more impact to the gesture and to the signal non aggressiveness. His entire body is open, showing that nothing is being concealed. This man is communicating an open, non threatening attitude. 2. What are the five main signals? This is a classic deceit cluster. As he rubs his eyes and looks away, and both eyebrows are raised to the disbelief position, his head is turned away and slightly down, showing a negative attitude. He also has an insincere, tight lipped smile. 3. What are the three main signals? The man is pretending to be smiling confidently as he crosses the room, but one hand has crossed his body to adjust his watch and form a partial arm barrier. His smile is a basic fear face. This shows that he is unsure of himself or of his circumstances. 4. What are the main five signals? This woman disapproves of the person at whom she's looking. She has turned neither her body nor head towards him, but is giving him a sideways glance with her head slightly down, which is disapproval. Eyes slightly turned down, which is anger, a full arm cross gesture, which is defensive, and the corners of her mouth are turned down. 5. What are the four main signals? Dominance, superiority, territoriality are evident here. The catapult shows a superior know-it-all attitude, and feet on desk shows a territorial claim to it. To further highlight his ego, he has a high-status chair with wheels, arms, and other accessories. He is also sitting in the defensive, competitive position. 6. What are the three main signals? The hands on hips gesture is used by the child to make himself appear larger and more threatening. The chin is jutting forward to show defiance, and the mouth is opened wide to expose the teeth, just as animals do before they attack. 7. What are the five main signals? This cluster can be summed up in one word: negative. The folder is used as a barrier, and the arms and legs are folded due to the nervousness or defensiveness. His coat is buttoned, and his sunglasses hide any eye or pupil signals. Considering that people form 90% of their opinion of someone in the first 4 minutes, it's unlikely that this man will ever get to first base with another person. 8. What are the six main signals? Both men are using aggression and readiness gestures. The man on the left using the hands on hips gesture, and the man on the right the thumbs in belt. The man on the left is less aggressive than the man on the right, as he is leaning backwards and his body is pointing slightly away from the man on the right. The man on the right, however, has assumed an intimidating pose by pointing his body directly at the other man and taking an erect stance. His facial expression is also consistent with his body gestures, and his mouth is turned down. 9. What are the 13 main signals? The man on the left is straddling a chair in his attempt to take control of the discussion or to dominate the man on the right. He is also pointing his body directly at the man on the right. He has clenched fingers and his feet are locked together under his chair, showing a frustrated attitude, which means that he's probably having a difficulty getting his point across. The man in the center feels superior to the other two because of the catapult gesture he is using. He also has the figure 4 leg position, indicating that he could be competitive or argumentative. He has a high status chair that swivels, leans back, and has wheels and armrests. The man on the right is seated on a low status chair that has fixed legs and no accessories. His arms and legs are tightly crossed, which is defensive, and his head is down, which is hostile, pointing away, disinterest, indicating that he doesn't like what he hears. 10. What are the 14 main signals? The woman is displaying classic courtship gestures. She has one foot forward, pointing towards the man on the far left, a combination of hand on hip and thumb in belt. Her left wrist is being flashed, and she is blowing cigarette smoke upwards. She is also giving a sideways glance to the man on the far left, and he is responding to her courtship gestures by adjusting his tie and pointing his foot at her. His head is up. The man in the center is clearly unimpressed with the other man as he has his body pointing away and is giving him an aggressive sideways glance. He has his palms out of sight and is blowing his cigarette down, which is negative. He is also leaning against the wall. 11. What are the 12 main signals? The man on the left is using superiority gestures and has an arrogant attitude towards the man sitting opposite. He is using eye block signals to block the other man from sight, and his head is tilted back to look down his nose at him. Defensiveness is also evident because his knees are held tightly together and he is holding his wine glass with both hands to form a barrier. The man in the middle has been excluded from the conversation by the two other men not forming a triangle to include him. He does, however, seem aloof, as shown by his thumbs in waistcoat gesture, which is superiority, leaning back on his chair and is using a crotch display, which is macho. The man on the right has heard enough and has taken the starter's position, which means he is ready to leave, and his foot and body are pointed towards the nearest exit. His eyebrows and the corners of his mouth are turned down, and his head is slightly down, revealing disapproval. 12. What are the 11 main signals? The man on the left and the man on the right has taken closed body positions. The central man's attitude shows superiority and sarcasm, and he is using the lapel grasping gesture with a thumb up superiority, plus a thumb point gesture towards the man on his left, ridicule. The man on the right has responded defensively with crossed legs and aggressively with the upper arm grip gesture, which is self control, and sideways glance. The man on the left of this sequence is also unimpressed with the central man's attitude. He has crossed legs, which is defensive, palm in pocket, which means he's unwilling to participate, and is looking at the floor while using the pain in neck gesture. 13. What are the 12 main signals? This sequence also shows a tense atmosphere. All three men are sitting back in their chairs to keep the maximum distance from each other. The man on the right is probably causing the problem because of his negative gesture cluster. As he is speaking, he is using the nose touch gesture, which is the seat, and his right arm has crossed his body to make a partial arm barrier. His lack of concern about the other men's opinions is shown by the leg over chair gesture, crotch display, and his body is pointed away from them. The man on the left disapproves of what the man on the right has to say and is using the lint picking gesture, which is disapproval. His legs are crossed, which is defensive, and pointed away, which means he is uninterested. The man in the middle would like to say something but is holding back his opinion, shown by his self-restraint gesture of gripping the arms of the chair and his locked ankles. He has also issued a non-verbal challenge to the man on the right by pointing his body at him. 14. What are the 8 main signals? In this scene, the man on the left and the woman have mirrored each other's gestures to form bookends on the couch. The couple are very interested in each other and have positioned their hands in such a way that they can expose their wrists, and they have crossed legs towards one another. The man in the middle has a tight-lipped smile in an attempt to look interested in what the other man has to say, but this is incongruent with his other facial and body gestures. His head is down, which is disapproval. The corner of his mouth turned down, his eyebrows are also down, which means anger, and he is giving the other man a sideways glance. His arms and legs are tightly crossed, which is defensive, all indicating that he has a very negative attitude. 15. What are the 15 main signals? The man on the left is using a cluster to convey openness and honesty. Exposed palms, foot forward, head up, coat unbuttoned, arms and legs apart, leaning forward and smiling gestures. Unfortunately for him, however, his story is not getting across. The woman is sitting back in her chair with her legs crossed away, which is defensive. She has a partial arm barrier, which is defensive, a clenched fist, which means tension, her head down, and is using a critical evaluation gesture. The man in the middle has raised steeple position, indicating that he feels confident or smug, and he is sitting in the figure 4 leg position, showing that his attitude is competitive or argumentative. We can assume that his overall attitude is negative as he is sitting back, his head down. 16a. What are the 9 main signals? In the first scene, all 3 people have their arms folded, 2 have their legs crossed, which is defensive, and all of their bodies oriented away from each other, all indicating that they may have just met for the first time. The man on the right appears interested in the woman as he has his right foot twisted around to point at her, and he is giving her a sideways glance combined with raised eyebrows, which means interest, and a smile. He is leaning towards her with the upper part of his body. She is closed off to both men at this point. 16b. What are the 11 main signals? The woman has now uncrossed her legs and is standing in the attention position, while the man on the left has uncrossed his legs and is pointing one foot at her, which means interest, and leaning towards her. He is using the thumbs in belt gesture, which is either intended as a competitive display towards the other man, in which case the attitude is aggression, or is directed towards the woman, making it a sexual display. He is also standing straighter to make himself appear bigger. The man on the right seems intimidated by the other man, as seen by his now more erect stance, his crossed arms, and the fact that he is giving the other man a sideways glance combined with eyebrows down, and his smile has gone, which means his approval. 16c. What are the 15 main signals? The attitudes and emotions of these people are now clearly shown by their body language. The man on the left has kept his thumbs in belt, foot forward position, and has turned his body more towards the woman, making it a complete courtship display. His thumbs are also gripping his belt much tighter to make the gesture more noticeable, and his body has become even more erect. The woman is responding to this courtship display with her own, showing that he is interested in being involved with him. She has uncrossed her arms, turned her body towards him, and is pointing one foot at him. Her courtship gestures include hair touching, exposed wrists, chest forward to show cleavage, and positive facial expression. And she is blowing her cigarette smoke upwards, which means confidence. The man on the right is unhappy about being excluded and is using the hands on hips gesture, which means aggressive readiness, and standing crotch display to show his displeasure. In summary, the man on the left has won the woman's attention, and the man on the right should leave. Congrats! You finished the test. Now count the points you got. 130 to 150 points. You are an extremely effective communicator who is sensitive to other people's feelings most of the time. If you got this, you're destined for some good stuff. 100 to 130 points. You are very good with people and generally have a feel about what's going on. With perseverance and practice, you can become a top-notch communicator. 70 to 100 points. Sometimes you twig at how people are feeling about things or about other. At other times you find out several days later. You need diligent body language practice. 70 or fewer. You either don't know body language is a thing or you're just terrible at it. I suggest you search for a career in computing, accounting, or as a medical receptionist where people skills are not a requirement. And that's it. Congrats on the test. Comment down what you got. Like and subscribe. See y'all next time. Thank you all for watching. Goodbye.